Alright, this is Andrew with Joda Home Inspections. We're in Salt Lake today doing a sewer scope. Today is March 5th, 2025. We're at 1056 East Elgin Ave. We have the camera pushed out 118 feet. We are not yet to the city connection. I'm hitting some sort of an offset on a joint, and I can't get my camera past. Normally, I have a sled on my camera head which helps get over small offsets. It also helps make it easier to push my camera out. This line has a section under the house that is it's so constricted that I couldn't even get my sled through. I had to take that off and push it out bare, just the camera head. And we'll talk about that more as we get closer to it. I think we might be close to the city connection. I think that gravel cement section is turning to drop into the city line, but you can see that there's an offset there. That's a spot where waste could collect and create a blockage where it could back up into the house. I can't tell if the pipes have separated enough to where it's letting water through that joint, but that would not be great because it can allow it to settle more. And the only way to fix that offset would be to dig it up and do a spot repair, which at that point is most likely out in the road. This is clay pipe. Clay has a lot of joints, and so you'll notice that we'll pass a joint every 3 or 4 feet. And one downside with that is that you have more joints and roots that come through. So far I've only seen smaller roots. Now we're starting to go underwater, which means that you have a little bit of a low spot or a belly. You always want everything to drain on its own with gravity. So, not great. I mean, that one is more than just a few feet, which means that waste can collect in that belly and create a blockage where it could back up towards the house. Just like that offset, the only way to fix that is to dig it up and spot repair. That's bad enough that I would consider it. At a minimum, you certainly want the insurance on this line. I would consider having that spot cleaned out to see if you can see it any better. We know it's holding water, but it could be worse than it was. As in, not only is it holding water, it could have spots that have broken through, or there might be a reason why it's holding so much water there if it's collapsed out of the bottom or something like that. You might be able to see that if you clean it, but you might not. I'm going to go flush a toilet to help clear my camera head off. Once we went through some of that waste, it got on my camera head, so bear with me a minute while I run inside and flush a toilet. Alright, I'm back, and it looks like that helped. So we're we're going through some cast iron. Cast iron gets real rough and rusty. Eventually it'll need to be replaced. When it's rough like that, it makes it easier for waste to get stuck on the line. You can see all that scale built up. I would recommend having the line put coated so they cut off all that rust with a chain. Little piece of plastic there, and then it transitions back to cast. And the insurance doesn't cover what's under the house generally. There's a separate insurance that HomeServe offers, but it doesn't cover nearly as much. I think out in the yard will cover up to $10,000, and under the house they 35%. So, if I remember correctly. Well, it looks like it's cast iron under the house. A little bit of standing water there. We do have a little bit of water running through the toilet. I know one of the toilets ran completely upstairs, and so it might be having an issue where it flushes out. It's going to keep running all the way. Let's go flush it. See it with this water running. Right near the bottom of the stack. So I'm accessing the line through the roof, and right at the bottom of the stack there's a section of pipe that was very oblong. What I noticed is that your roof vent is made of Orangeburg. A lot of people think cast iron's the worst type of sewer. I think Orangeburg is certainly worse. Orangeburg was basically cardboard and bitumen, which is like a tar, from what I understand. And what would happen over time is that the Orangeburg would compress like a pancake and get smaller and smaller. And when I pushed my camera out, I think I mentioned that I wasn't able to get my camera to go through with the sled, and that's because it was so compressed. I don't think we're going to see it with this water running, but this was compressed enough that if anything was going through that jet, I would expect it to allow waste to get stuck on it. It did not look good, and so I would recommend having that looked at by a specialist, and ideally having that section repaired. I would recommend having a specialist look at a couple of things here. So first, you do have the cast iron that's looking pretty rough, and so I'd recommend having that put coated to make it nice and smooth. You do have the low spot out in the yard. It's on the more lengthy side. I would recommend having that repaired ideally. At a minimum, you want to have the insurance. And then under the house, you have that section that looked, it didn't have the full diameter of the pipe. It looked like it was compressed, and I think that's because it might be Orangeburg. It had a little bit of buildup on it, and so I'm not positive that it was Orangeburg, but I know that you certainly have an Orangeburg roof stack. I'm actually going to show you a little bit of it. So it's almost like cardboard. It just falls apart. And you can imagine that once you have water running through that, what, 80 years, 70 years, it's going to get real soft and start to collapse down. So instead of having a full circle, it's kind of looks more like this. I'm going to end this recording now.